Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Church. I hope you're all managing to stay cool in this lovely Tucson July.
Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation, a secular faith community. So what is a secular faith community? It is this people, this place, our programs, thriving at the intersection of science and belief, of reason and intuition, of reality and dreams, of engagement and imagination. And you can hear the joy of this right through this door, which I'm just going to close for a little bit. In between and in betwixt all of that we live. So welcome, whoever you are, longtime participant or first-time guest. Wherever you are, here in this room or joining via Zoom, whenever you are joining us, right now, present to this moment, or viewing us sometime later on a recording online. You are welcome to share in this secular faith. And we gather in welcome first by turning to the camera to wave to all of those joining us right now on Zoom. So we just turn. This is our first step in welcoming one another. And the next is my invitation to you to rise in body or in spirit and greet one another in person.
Hello, how are you?
Good to see you. These ongoing conversations are a great example of our need for fellowship following the service. So I want to invite you all to join us following the service for a time of fellowship and refreshment right through these doors in our Oasis room. I'm Reverend Matthew, minister and pastor alongside all of you. And my elders have taught me always to begin in gratitude. More than just a thank you, gratitude is a relationship of receiving what you need and giving back what you can. There are many, many people receiving much from our people, place, and programs, and they reciprocate with their time and their talent. And I'm thankful then for Chris, our music director, for Tay, our engagement coordinator, who's right there, for Stacy, who is in with that joyful noise next door, and Stephanie, our administrator, who is here during the week. They energize me with their vision of community and share their unique gifts with all of us. I'm grateful, too, for our Board of Trustees and Program Council, our many committees. Their devotion and dedication empowers us to live into our mission, engage, love, transform. And then on Sundays, our welcomers, our audiovisual squad, our pastoral associates, our hospitality team, they embody community from the moment that you walk up to when you head out for the rest of your day. Our secular faith is better and stronger because of all of these people. Thank you. This month, we gather together in search of values to sustain us. With Alex, our pastoral associate today, we'll begin that search for play. Now, play might feel like a little funny place to start with the messiness and mayhem of our current world. But the Reverend Marisol Caballero, the faith innovation specialist of our Association of Congregations, sees wisdom in play. She writes, "The more I watch the news these days, the more I'm coming to view playing, intentionally seeking joy, as a means of radical resistance." And so she prays, "Divine mystery, you are present in my joy and in my sorrow and in my anger and in my fear. Guide me to create joy in my life and in the lives of others, that despair finds no permanent home in my soul. Amen." And her wisdom and prayer for joy, it puts me in mind of gathering around a campfire. Gathering around a campfire in the twilight, we really can't see the world around us clearly. We may feel afraid of what's beyond the edge of our sight, and there is a lot to fear in this world. But the warmth of community lies within that yellow-orange glow, reminding us we're together. Held in the crackling of the fire and the smell of the burning wood, we could sit quietly. We could despair of the world. But we choose not to. We intentionally search for joy. And so we might sing songs together, maybe changing some of the lyrics. We might recite poetry with silly verses, wisdom hidden deep inside. We might make awful puns and retell tall tales of fantastic creatures simply to make one another smile, to laugh, to remind us of the blessing of joy. And who knows? Perhaps as we evoke the wondrous, they might sit down among us with their whimsical wisdom and begin to guide us. And that's what playing is. It's not ignoring reality. It's intentionally seeking to discover joy together so that we learn to transform it. It is good that we've gathered here in the unceded lands of the Otham and the Yaqui, who continue to live and steward the land, the desert now known as Sonoran. Gathered to welcome one another in the sanctuary of our community gather in the midst of life's mayhem to intentionally search for joy. It is good to be together. Let us worship.
Good morning, everyone. As Matthew stated, I'm Alex Stuckey, Pastoral Associate. Our chalice lighting is called Exploring Who We Are. This chalice lighting is by Melanie Davis, Program Manager for Our Whole Lives, our comprehensive fact-based age-appropriate sex and sexuality curriculum. She writes, under the right circumstances, playing with fire is a delight. Imagine being gathered around a fire pit as the crackling flames invite us to sing, dance, and roast a marshmallow or two. Our chalice also invites us to play, although with ideas rather than with marshmallows. The flame encourages us to explore who we are, who our neighbors are, and where we are going on our spiritual journeys. Today, we light this chalice in the spirit of play. Let us trust the light to guide us in this hour and in the days to come, finding joy along the way.
Our celebration chalice is something that we light during those watershed moments in the life of our congregation. We light it for births and for deaths and for those unique and significant changes that are happening here among us. And today, we light it in jubilation and in celebration for Debbie and for Tom. Would you come and join me, please? Right here. It turns out these two were married on June 28th in Lake Tahoe up in California. It was yeah. Absolutely. It was a small, informal affair with Tom's kids and their partners and Debbie's niece in attendance. It's been our joy to witness your growing love and devotion, some of those here from the very first time that you met, and all of us right here now today. We celebrate with you as you begin your lives together as a married couple. And so I'm going to offer you this. And you, from the flame of the chalice, if you would light our chalice, our celebration chalice then. Debbie's a professional, having served on our pastoral associates team for some years, so. If you come right back here, stand right there, facing each other. Because I'm going to stand on this side of you. Yeah, a little bit more towards the congregation. Go. You've invited me to offer you a blessing, and I have chosen a Celtic blessing that comes to my family through our Scottish heritage. May your mornings bring you joy and your evenings bring you peace. May your troubles grow few and your blessings increase. May the saddest day of your future be no worse than the happiest of your past. May your hands be forever clasped in friendship and your souls be one in the everlast. Individually, you are wonderful. You've grown through struggle in many ways. May all blessings rest upon your union and joy fill your coming days. And so joyfully, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join your voices together for our first hymn, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. twilight, creatures betwixt both day and night. Don't let them fool ya, don't let them fool ya. Been with us since the days of yore, our wisdom living through our lore. Let them school ya, let them school ya, not to rule ya, not to rule ya. Let's sing boo-ya. Please be seated.
Need a sip of coffee for this one. So I'll be reading The Unicorn by Shel Silverstein. A long time ago, when the earth was green, and there was more kinds of animals than you've ever seen, and they run around free while the world was being born, and the loveliest of all was the unicorn. There was green alligators and long-necked geese. There was humpy, bumpy camels and chimpanzees. There was cats and rats and elephants, but sure as you're born, the loveliest of all was the unicorn. But the Lord seen some sinning, and it caused him pain. He says, "Stand back, I'm gonna make it rain." He says, "Hey, brother Noah, I tell you what you do, go build me a floating zoo. And you take 2 alligators, a couple of geese, 2 humpy bumpy camels, and 2 chimpanzees. Take 2 cats and rats and elephants. But sure as you're born, Noah, don't you forget my unicorn." Now, Noah was there, and he answered the call-in. And he finished up the ark just as the rain started falling. He marched in the animals 2 by 2, and he called out as they went through. "Hey, Lord, I got your alligators, your 2 alligators, and your couple of geese. Got your humpy bumpy camels and your 2 chimpanzees. Got your cats and rats and elephants, but Lord, I'm so forlorn 'cause I just don't see no unicorn." Old Noah looked out through the driving rain, but the unicorns were hiding, playing silly games. They were kicking and splashing in the misty morn. Oh, them silly unicorns. Then the goats started goating, and the snakes started sneaking. The elephants started elephanting, and the boat started shaking. The mouse started squeaking, and the lion started roaring. And everyone's aboard but the unicorn. I mean, the green alligators and the long-necked geese, the humpy bumpy camels and the chimpanzees. Noah cried, "Close the door 'cause the rain's a-pouring and we just can't wait for them unicorn." Then the ark started moving and it drifted with the tide. And the unicorns looked up from the rock and cried, and the water come up sort of floated them away. That's why you've never seen a unicorn to this day. You'll see a lot of alligators and a whole mess of geese. You'll see humpy, bumpy camels and lots of chimpanzees. You'll see cats and rats and elephants, but sure as you're born, you're never going to see no unicorn.
I invite you now to a time of contemplation, of wondering and pondering and playing with ideas. I saw a real live unicorn once. I really did. In the flesh, back in the summer of 1985 at the Tucson Convention Center. And growing up, I had a passion for unicorns that led to a small collection of miniatures and stuffed animals. My favorite unicorn was a fuzzy little soft one, about this big, and it had spring in its front legs so it could clasp onto my rainbow suspenders. I did mention this was the early 80s, right? So it's fair to say that I was more than a little predisposed to want to see a unicorn. And so joining the crowds in 1985 to come to the TCC and see the living unicorn at the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus was a highlight. But the living unicorn was just a goat with one horn. A one-horned, four-legged animal technically fits into the mythology of unicorns, but I have to say I was disappointed. I didn't really need the living unicorn to majestically prance around or bestow miracles with the touch of its horn or even poop rainbows. Something that wasn't chewing on everything around it and seemingly sad to be on display would have been enough. Something that was more than a goat just goatin' would have been fine. There are times when reality really saps the joy out of something, isn't there? That's not quite the meaning of Shel Silverstein's The Unicorn. His retelling of the biblical story of Noah's Ark seems to say that if you're playful and silly, you'll miss the boat when things get serious. See what I did there? Miss the boat. That reading doesn't take into account the meaning of the biblical context, however. And when you read it that way, the context changes everything. As the poem states, the Lord seen some sinning, and it caused him pain. He says, "Stand back, I'm going to make it rain." Or as it says in Genesis 6:11 through 13. Now the earth was corrupt in the God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw that the earth was corrupt and said to Noah, "I have determined to make an end of all, for the earth is filled with violence, and I'm going to destroy the earth." It's not quite as rhyming as the first, but they say pretty much the same thing mythologically. Violence brings destruction beyond those who are being violent. The story of the flood and the ark is about the entire world being destroyed because of the violence of a few. It's the story about the start of a new world, with that rainbow being God's covenant that the world would never be destroyed that way again. And in this reading, Shel Silverstein says that in Earth 2.0, you're never going to see no unicorn. In this world, you're not going to find the loveliest of all creatures, the embodiment of play. And that's not at all the same as the original meaning, which blames the unicorn and play for its own demise. Aside from a very questionable morality of a Lord God that drowns what it has created, there is a new message in this context. It's an implication in the playfulness of the poem itself. You put play, the intentionally searching for joy, back into the world. You do it. When our reality lacks joy, when it is overpowered by violence, our work of resistance is to create joy and to return it to the world through our play. We recreate the world through recreation. See what I did there? As Reverend Marisol prays, and to a very different divinity. Divine mystery, you are present in my joy and in my sorrow and my anger and my fear. Guide me to create joy in my life and the lives of others, that despair finds no permanent home within my soul. Amen. Our next hymn is We Laugh, We Cry. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and don't worry, there's no silly lyrics to this one. and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found the joy of being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer. Please be seated. The ritual of celebration and comfort has been called the ritual of joys and sorrows. And I've realized that what we are practicing every week, while it's similar to the congregation's long tradition of joys and sorrows, it's different and distinct. And so starting this month, and then every third Sunday of every other month, so 6 times this church year, we will hold the ritual of joys and sorrows, the open mic, if you will, when each and every one of you who wishes to come forward and to speak and to share what's in your heart will have that opportunity. And then the rest of the Sundays, we will practice the ritual of celebration and comfort. Both rituals, we pour out water that we have collected from Sonoran skies and from our homes and from our travels. And then our pastoral care person comes forward and leads us in sharing our individual joys and sorrows which have been offered to our pastoral care committee.
Hello. This is going to be for some of the joys, and this will be for the sorrows. And I have a joy to share. John and I have a joy to share. We are very grateful and joyous with the birth of our new grandson, Easton Hayes, on June 20th in Seattle, who's doing very well. And we're also very, very joyous about our granddaughter, Amelia Harper, born on May 18th, who spent a month in intensive care, is home now and doing very well.
We recognize as well that there are joys among us that lift our hearts that are unspoken. And so we add more stones. And here there are sorrows too, unnamed, and yet weighing our hearts. It's very similar to joys and sorrows, celebration and comfort, but here is where it differs. This ritual is an invitation to you to respond as a congregation, to begin to hear, to be aware of what is in our hearts, is an invitation, a call to all of us to ask, how are you? How are you? And then to listen, not to fix, not to change, but to accompany what you are hearing, that other person, in all of the joys that lift them up and all of the sorrows that weigh them down. In celebration and in comfort. May we be so called to respond to not just what's in our own hearts, but to what we recognize is here among us. Our pastoral care team leads us in this call. Their dedication and devotion to our members and friends, and they work directly with individuals and lead our entire congregation. In our messy, messy world of ups and downs, it is good to know that our pastoral care team is around. And after that, I invite you to a time of meditation, of breath and of being and locating your joy, maybe even using this image, jackalopes of the world. About her art and this painting, artist Leah Kaiser, who lives in Casa Grande, Arizona, says, "At this time, I cannot seem to get excited to paint subjects that don't make me laugh. And I'm thankful to have found an audience that enjoys them. To prepare for these paintings, in addition to practicing for years to gain the skill at painting realistically, I let my mind wander and let images come to me. When these images make me laugh out loud or make me think, I've never seen anything like that before, then there's a good chance that they will strike others in a I don't know why that exists, but I'm glad that it does kind of way. I began painting with this balance of realism and illustration because I couldn't decide between the two. It's a challenging balance between observing and imagining. This spectrum between realism and illusion leads to variability and experimentation in my work, and it adds another dimension of play, and you'll likely see some more of that from me in the future. In that spirit, I invite you to breathe. And as your body needs, rest and be. Whoever, whenever, wherever you are, rest in your dignity. Rest in community. Rest in your ancestry. And at that intersection of dignity and community and ancestry, welcome your joy. Like jackalopes, joy is varied and diverse, similar, and yet somehow not quite the same as the others. And what play then calls to you? What excites you and makes you laugh? What embodied joy would you share with the world? It might be something bold, never seen before, or familiar, but forgotten. There is no need to be selective or discerning. Just welcome play, open to joy. Allow yourself to rest in betwixt and between. Allow yourself to envision joy and embody play. As you do, live and bring us to life. I have never seen a jackalope. I mean, I've seen them in Pixar shorts and on postcards and T-shirts and stickers. And yet, never having seen something in the flesh, it doesn't make it any more real or less important. And that's kind of like joy. We may not see much of it in the world. In betwixt and between the messiness and the mayhem. And it may seem like joy then is a silly fantasy, that it's unimportant somehow. And yet it is vital to our lives. And play is our means to bring joy back into reality. Jackalopes come bounding in from American lore and history to remind us of this wisdom. Like their horned cousins, the unicorns, they are a cryptid, a hidden creature out of story and legend. Our culture creates and recreates cryptids to remind us of things that we have forgotten. Where the unicorn reminds us that we can bring joy into the world through play, the jackalope, it reminds us that with play we can find the means to transform the world. The very first jackalope was born in 1932 in Douglas, Wyoming. That's when Doug and Ralph Herrick, only 9 or 10 years old at the time, and young students of taxidermy recall inventing the jackalope. They'd been out hunting for their family's table, and they had brought back a deer and a hare. And maybe you can see where this is going. After coincidentally seeing them next to each other, Ralph recalls Doug saying out loud, "Let's mount that thing." And combining the head and the antlers, they created the very first jackalope. The mounted jackalope was hung on the wall at a local bar, and that began the jackalope craze. Mounted jackalopes rapidly spread across the country, with the Herrick boys crafting the majority of them. And so it is theorized that this inspired some hunters, seeing those mounted jackalopes in bars and taverns, to reach out to Dr. Richard Shope, a virologist, with something odd they found while they had been hunting: hares and rabbits with horn-like growths on their heads. Now, at first, he believed it was a hoax, but eventually Dr. Shope received wild specimens, and in fact, unusual growths like horns were coming out of the heads of hares and rabbits. He investigated in the field and then later in the lab, and in 1933 he discovered that those protruding growths were caused by the papillomavirus. This is the history part of this story. He connected this virus and those horn-like growths to the formation of cancer cells in a way that no one ever had before. And that by his research, the human papillomavirus vaccine, HPV, was developed. The HPV vaccine is now used worldwide to prevent several kinds of cancers. It was the playfulness of 2 boys that led a virologist to the prevention of cancer. History. Out of imagination and dreams, intuition and belief comes engagement and reality, reason and science. It's in that context that the jackalope bounds into our world with all of its ups and downs and all of our rainy days and the sheer madness of life. Get it? Sheer madness? Yeah. The jackalope guides us to play, to recreate and to recreate in joy, so that we may transform the world. Once again, Reverend Marisol. Divine mystery, you are present in my joy, and in my sorrow and anger and in my fear. Guide me to create joy in my life and in the lives of others, that despair finds no permanent home within my soul. Amen. May we be so bold to live into this prayer, to search for play, intentional joy, and to bring ourselves and others to life. As we choose it, may it be. A little something about our final hymn.
Yeah, okay, it's out of season. But, interestingly, it's not really originally about Christmas at all. You know that bit of history.
Yeah.
I don't know it as strongly. Would you be so kind as to share that?
Well, only that the original song was written during a time when people thought the end of the world was imminent. And so this was about the second coming. It was about a joy returning to the world after it was destroyed. So I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and sing aloud for joy to the world.
In the lovely UUified text.
Joy to the world, the word is come. Let earth
Time for our closing announcements. We have the wooden bowl and woven basket as usual. As you leave our sanctuary today and join in the fellowship for refreshments and more coffee, you'll see a wooden bowl and woven basket. This wooden bowl is to collect your donations to our congregation, and the wooden basket is for our monthly justice partner, which is, this month our partner is UU The Vote, a part of the Side with Love campaign. Telling us all about it is Nicole Presley, the organizing strategy director for our Association of Congregations.
Our relationships and the values that ground them are sacred. And just as they are the thread that weave our covenantal community, our web of interconnectivity is what holds the strength and possibility in our justice organizing work. Side with Love holds the public justice work of the Unitarian Universalist Association, bringing our values to life through mobilizing leaders within our congregations and beyond. And in these times, where threats to democracy and liberty devastate our communities, our families, and our individual lives, we are fortified by the truth that throughout history, people, Unitarian Universalists, rise to meet the moment, to side with love and struggle towards the highest aspirations of our faith, to reject the disposability of any human being and proclaim all are worthy of love and belonging, and to make it so through our actions. Side with Love works on 4 intersectional priorities: democracy with You, the Vote, climate with Create Climate Justice and the Green Sanctuary programs, LGBTQ and gender justice through Uplift Action and decriminalization. In 2024, we are rising to the challenges that we are facing in our world today. Launching the first ever faith-wide climate revival that will break down silos and springboard hundreds of congregations to usher in a new era, moving beyond extraction and into a wider climate justice movement. Supporting congregations with tools and trainings to equip us to take courageous and impactful action. We're building response networks across the country for trans people, students, and many folks targeted by state violence and legislative attacks. Side with Love calls on us to show up, to be bold, and to be a part of a moral majority that knows another world is possible. And we are taking action right now towards that future, especially in this consequential year with You, the Vote 2024. You, the Vote is anchored in the promise of democracy, to build an inclusive and accountable democracy that works for the many, not the few. It is grounded in the process of democracy that demands that we combat voter suppression, safeguard our elections by volunteering as poll workers, to protect abortion rights, and to show up to make sure every vote is counted. Our trainings equip us to be communities of action and care for the urgent work that will remain in the days and the years following the election. You, the Vote is anchored in the people, all of the people who power our democracy, at the polls, on the steps of the Supreme Court, in the halls of our legislatures, and in the streets. Today, under the leadership of democracy strategist Nora Rassman, we are already underway. We've already made 8,000 calls to voters in Georgia ahead of the primary. We mobilized congregations to action in Orlando, Sarasota, and Palm Beach to cross the finish line and add to the nearly 1 million petitions that got abortion protection on the ballot. And we are working with many more other congregations who made their congregations petition drop-off hubs for voters in their communities. In Arizona, we held mobilizations in Tucson, in Phoenix, to have values-based conversations with voters and train our communities to gather petition signatures. We are rising to the challenge of frontline partners who have asked for Unitarian Universalists to be bold and vocal in our support of abortion rights and trans rights, and to grow a strong interfaith movement that contests theologies of domination that seek to control the lives, bodies, and futures of BIPOC, trans, disabled, and many other targeted communities. Side with Love is proud to organize thousands of Unitarian Universalists every year. And today, I am asking for your support to make this work possible. We can achieve so much more right now if we do it together. Your gift today will be used to fund the programs that mobilize Unitarian Universalists across the country to take urgent action that meets the moment with faithful courage and prophetic determination. Love calls us to embody the highest aspirations of our faith and harness our power by acting boldly and committing to the work today and for the long haul. Thank you to all who made this possible. Thank you to all for your support, your work, and your generosity.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. RE Kids will be collecting new and gently used items for the Humane Society of Southern Arizona. We'll be collecting these items until August 11th, and we'll take these items with us when we go for a tour on August 17th. There are many ways that you can help animals in need. The Humane Society is always in need of cat and dog food, toys, leashes, litter, and a lot of other pet supplies. For a full list, see our newsletter or flyer in the Oasis room. We'll have a box for supplies in the foyer and containers for monetary donations in the Oasis room. All the pets at the Humane Society thank you for your generous gift. If you have any questions or would like to join us for the tour, please see Stacy Sosa for details. In late September and early October, we will be joining in the Side with Love Climate Revival as a sponsoring congregation. Vince Pawlowski is willing to be a co-leader of our activities. We are looking for a co-lead to work with him, so please let him know if you are interested. On July 20th at 1 p.m., we will be viewing the documentary Where Olive Trees Weep about the conflict in Israel and Palestine. Samarati will introduce the award-winning film, and afterwards, Reverend Matthew will lead a trauma-informed discussion. Please RSVP to Reverend Matthew directly. Now we'll be releasing the flame. The reading is To Soulfully Survive the World's Mayhem by Reverend Heather Rayon Starr. May whatever gatherings or activities we engage in help restore us. Our connections to one another, our sense of hope, beauty, and fun in this world, our deep knowing that we have to take care of ourselves and each other with love and joy. We are to soulfully survive the world's mayhem.
And speaking of mayhem, a couple years ago when I played for my niece's wedding, they could not, her and her now present wife, I could not get them to commit to anything. They said they'd like it to be traditional, but they also wanted to dance. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons, I didn't wind up playing in the wedding itself, but this is something I came up with in honor of our newlyweds this morning. On your feet, shake a tail feather.